today what we want to do is just have a bit of a quick, well, we can take as long as we like, really, but just wanted to get a sense of how the gateway experience was for you.
Okay.
Um, before we dive in, do you have any questions or anything that you wanted to ask or run by me, anything like that first?
No, no, thanks. All good. I'm good to go. Good to
All
go.
right, perfect. Well, Dan, so you've just completed the gateway experience course.
Yep.
And what I wanted to do was just get a sense of how the course was for you. Like things like what did you expect going in? What did you get out of it? And I'll have a few more questions just to probe along the way. But first off, what were you expecting going into the course? What did you come into the course with your mind in your mind?
Expanded consciousness. So I wanted to learn uh, techniques, tools, process to aid with expanding my consciousness.
Okay. Do you think that you achieved that? Was there?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. I
Okay,
do.
cool.
I do. And I guess um, by way of evidence for that, there's a few things. So there's not one thing that categorically launched me into that position. I guess there was a number of smaller things. So one thing was about um, the process of getting into the 10 state, for example. So that process that preceded getting to the 10 state, I found that to be in its own right a very powerful process. With the yeah, and just the little things like putting all your concerns into a box and then putting a
Yeah.
heavy lid on the box.
Yeah.
That just in itself clears way for your mind to expand. So something as basic and simple as that was beneficial to just allow my mind to go beyond what was on my mind immediately. And yeah, and then just that that getting into that state where your body was asleep but your mind was active. So I'm not sure to what extent my body was actually in a sleep mode because I'm not sure. Like I don't, when you're asleep, you don't get a sense of what the rest of your body's doing.
Sure.
But it was very relaxed, so I guess there was that element of it. And the first couple of sessions, I fell asleep. So so I just had to work on, and I think it was in one of our sessions, Thursday night sessions, we talked about this, and it was just for me then it was about just making sure I was awake, that the rest of me
Yeah.
was. So once I got that from you, then I was able to stay awake and then it was fine. So yeah, and I guess that was so yeah, state 10 was the 10 state was great. The next thing that was really, really interesting was the floating. That whole sense of floating, getting in the balloon and then floating, that was that was that really had an effect. And we talked about this in the Thursday session. Was my heart rate? I could feel my heart rate going up, and it was belting my chest like it was like punching my chest a couple of times. And I think that was just more about slipping into the unknown, and
Mm.
so that was probably more an anxiety thing.
Yeah.
You mentioned also that the sinking, it's that whatever the term is for that bifurcation from the feedback from the
Yep. So there's like the rhythm entrainment for the different like the brain rhythms, heart rhythms, and then the pulse that goes down from the heart through the aorta,
yeah,
and then the bifurcation
yeah,
at the top of the legs.
reverb, yeah. So
Yeah,
I think
reverberation.
you mentioned that in the Thursday session that it could well be just that sync, getting into sync, and I think it
Yep.
was because then subsequently later on that was never a problem, and I couldn't
Yeah.
sense there was no sense of that. So the other thing too, just by way of achieving or supporting McLean, was that um, I'm much more dreaming. I'm doing much more dreaming now. Not that I didn't do it before, but I'm certainly recalling dreams a lot more, and they're very vivid. They're really,
Yeah.
it's almost like we're talking now.
Yeah.
That they're that clear and they're that real. And I think I mentioned the other night. It's like I wake up and I go, "Shit, did that happen?" And then I've got to look around the room and go, oh, no, you were asleep, so just calm down, But yeah, so there was that. They would probably be the key things that would support my claim about the expansion of consciousness.
Okay, fantastic. So you came into the training hoping to get expanded consciousness, and you feel as though some of the really basic techniques that you do right at the start really helped to settle you so that you could focus on mind expansion. And then you found that the subsequent techniques, like you had to battle sleep, which is very natural, like in this going into the subconscious mind, right? Whether it's meditating, lucid dreaming, etc., we have to battle unconsciousness. Right. So, and then you got through that, and then you found that there were mind expanding, body altering, rhythm entrainment things happening in your body. And you felt all of these quite significantly and
Yes,
clearly,
yes,
and that it was in line kind of with your expectations. You wanted to
yes,
get mind expansion, and you feel like you've got it.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
So I didn't have an expectation of the quantum of the expansion
Yeah,
at all. It was just expansion.
sure. Like you were stepping into the unknown, and you were willing
Yeah,
to see what
100%.
happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Willing to go wherever it went to, I was willing to yeah, go there.
Okay, so would you say that the course overall it met your expectations?
Yeah,
It
yes,
it
yeah,
met them? Did it
yes,
exceed them?
yes,
Okay,
yes,
awesome. Love to
yeah.
hear
Because I
that.
just, it's funny. I want to keep practicing. So
Yeah,
I'm trying to do the one or two of them, one a day at least, but just to keep up the practice of it. And then once the other ones that level, the next levels, the next waves get released, and I'll chuff on with them. But I guess I just notice from time to time the world looks a bit different um, to me now when I like if I look at if I'm walking to the gym or walking somewhere it, it's really hard to explain, but it the world looks bigger. Like it looks there seems to be more of it or
yeah,
something like
amazing.
that. Like
Yeah,
I instead of just seeing my little hollow bit as I'm walking or whatever I'm doing, it just seems there's more to see or
yeah.
more to experience. It's really weird, and it doesn't happen all the time, but it's happening more frequently. And I'm getting that sense that I'm seeing more
I
than what
really
I
like
did.
that because, that's very much in line with the mind expansion. But
Mm.
you've talked about it, Angie's talked about it, Mel talked about it, all this sense of zooming out, feeling
There you
like you
go.
are zoomed out. And so, because one of the things we talked about in the training like lessons was this idea of multiple realities and going to higher dimensions. And so
Yeah,
one way that you could look at us is like you're an avatar, you're controlling
yeah,
yourself like a video game, right?
yeah,
Your consciousness, or at least what's controlling you, is kind of a bit outside of this physical body. And so when you have the ability to shift your conscious perception out of this 3D physical reality, you may indeed feel like, oh yeah, I'm not necessarily just in here, but also all around,
yeah, yeah.
right? And you're sort of the locus of consciousness may be expanding beyond. So
Yep.
that sounds kind of like what you're experiencing.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I guess I've always, for many, many years, I've had a belief that um, we we were parts of a bigger body. Like our cells make up, my body and your body, and then each one of us is like a cell to a bigger body. And
Yes.
I believed that for a long
Yeah.
time. And when I studied some fractal work at university, only a bit. And that's what kind of got my mind thinking about it. But it was many years later that I really started to get onto it. And I think that, by having that understanding, then that belief or being able to see beyond or have a broader view of what the world looks like, it just makes sense to me.
Yeah.
That's what we are. We're part of a bigger thing. So the other thing I really liked in the program was that video that you seen about the guy. He was I forget the name of the cartoon, the animation technology he had, but um, there was that short video about the guy who um, was making animation. And can you remember that?
Oh, like the stop motion,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
or
And
claymation kind of thing.
I really like that as a
Yeah.
way of, what you're just explaining now about seeing yourself as an avatar and stepping back and looking down on it. Well, that little video helped me conceptualize that.
Mm.
very nicely because you could see because the different angles they took when they made that little
Yeah.
film. There was actually filming him doing the filming,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
sort of meta filming or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah.
And that's what clicked it for me. Then I thought I can see that, and that was good too. That so yeah. So there was lots of things like that, like the metronome
Yeah.
thing. That was really so for me. I guess there was a lot of benefit in those videos that were
Sure.
highlighting a particular concept. Um, and then sort of reading the book, um, the pendulum book, as well, and having those really help solidify some of the difficult theories that were being espoused in the book and stuff. So yeah, I think that the program was well put together. It was a good pace. Um, Content was good. The content was not too overwhelming.
Sure.
And it was
Sure.
kind of and you meted it a certain way that allowed us to consume what we needed to consume without getting swamped in it all. So
Okay, great.
I think the pace was good as well. So yeah,
Excellent.
uh,
So, because what I tried to do, I did want to expose you to all the like the deepest ideas, so that there
yeah,
was, a fair amount of explanatory depth if you wanted it,
yes, yeah,
with documents and books and research and videos. And hopefully those little snippets helped just key you into the key ideas. And then the training obviously helps you experience it.
yeah,
So
yes,
the goal was to ensure that it didn't feel too slow. I certainly didn't want it to feel too slow, and I certainly didn't want it to feel too disconnected. So you're just training, but you don't have really a sense of what to expect.
yeah,
So do you feel like I did
yes,
manage to
yeah,
get the right
yeah. And I
balance
guess
for you?
that's what I'm saying is that the different threads that you wove the training around all work really well together for me anyway. And I think the thing that really then brought it together was actually doing the gateway, physically doing
Yeah. Yeah.
doing the gateway was a way then of just, I think you used the word practicing what we were learning
Yeah.
or even exploring it a little bit more, and then what was happening for me then is some experience in gateway then created some questions that I could read that certain texts from that questioning perspective,
Yeah.
and then find some deeper answers or different answers to what I would have got if I had not done gateway. So the gateway was providing some feedback
Yeah.
too to engage the material more meaningfully, I guess, or purposefully. Purposely is probably the better word. Yeah, so gateway was certainly a way of taking what we were learning and seeing it experientially, and then the experience of that was then feeding back into looking at the material in a different way. So yeah, I think there was a neat loop going on there, whether it was intentional or not. I'm sure it was. Um, it worked a treat for me. That
Good. Yes. No, I did definitely try to ensure that everything fed back onto itself so
yeah,
that there was
yeah.
supporting ideas. It's the first time I've run it, so it was a
100% acknowledge that,
yeah.
and you made that clear right from the start, and
Yeah.
so that's and I think that was good too because the guys in the group were certainly open-minded and they were just willing to have a go, and so I think that was also beneficial that the group was very accommodating, but
Mm.
but that didn't surprise me that they were like that.
Okay, good. So then for your experiences,
Mm,
some questions you've partly already answered. So you are
mm,
still practicing. You're
mm.
doing something daily.
Yeah,
Have you already finished all three waves then?
yep.
Okay. So I can make more available to you. If you're ready for it and you want it. Oh, have I lost you?
Right. Yeah, sure. Yep.
Sorry,
No,
there
yeah,
you go.
no. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear? Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, no, ready. There's a couple that I like to redo. And I think how we were talking recently about that whatever that not being able to see images in your mind thing. I think that may have limited been a limiting factor for me and the experience.
Okay.
Whereas people like Mel Orangi or Ricardo or Abel um, who were quite good at that may have had a richer experience, I guess. Maybe I'm not sure about that, but it
Maybe. It's definitely something. It's an interesting question, isn't it? Um,
mm,
I think you get consciousness is funny because you can kind of whatever you experience, it's always like complete, right? It's a rich,
Yes,
full,
yes,
complete experience. And then you
yeah,
can add something else like, oh wow, I didn't have that experience before, but now it's integrated
yeah,
into what you have. So I think your experience will still be just as rich. It just has a
yeah,
different quality.
yeah, different. Yes, yeah, I like that. That's yeah, that makes sense to me. It
Um,
certainly was. There was certainly, certainly very rich experience, and
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, and you and I have talked separately about seeing if this is a trainable, practicable thing to be able to
yeah,
visualize certain, whether it's colors or imagery, whatever. So that's kind of cool. We'll see as you practice, as you go further and deeper into these projects. So would you like me to release then the next waves for you? All
yes,
right, I
please.
can put those onto the app, no problems. So that's good. That answers that question because I am curious whether I tried to gather a range of people, all different backgrounds and interests. So I'm always happy to hear that you've kept going through and it's been meaningful to you.
Yeah,
Um, and the others have to varying degrees. So like Angie, I think she does a bit here and there, whereas you're doing it more like a discipline, which is great.
yeah.
So I had a couple of other questions. Yeah, was there any like major breakthroughs that you experienced? Any specific milestones of the course that you thought were particularly significant?
I think that when we got to the floating level in the gateway, um, that that was a milestone for me because the act of rising above yourself created that broadening in my mind. So so as I rose with the floating, it was like my mind then was opening at the same time. So that there was a link for me between that sensation of rising above and uh, and and then the broadening of the mind. So for me, that was significant, that event.
Okay.
And I've gone back to that a couple of times because it's been very beneficial.
Do you think that specifically has unlocked anything for you?
Yeah, that's what I think was the change in the consciousness or that sense of there's a bigger world. I can see things look bigger. Like when I look at things, it looks
Yeah.
bigger.
Okay.
I've always been really mindful of trying to see detail. Um, like I'll stop and I'll look at an ant or something,
Mm,
and just watch an ant. I'll just
yeah.
stop and watch an ant,
Yeah.
So I've always had that, not always, but in recent history, I've been trying to just stop and notice things, I guess, that part of awareness. But this is different. This is going the other way, it's broadening. So yeah, and I think that for me that was significant. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Great. Well, I guess from here, open question to any feedback, anything you would maybe like to see if I did in a future, if I did a future course. Like one potential outcome from here is I run a few more beginner trainings, with different people, but also into the future, say an advanced training course. So for people who've done the beginning stuff, they have a general sense of the theory, but then would like to expand it further. So I guess first, would you be interested in an
Yeah,
advanced course? And then
yeah.
number two, would you have any suggestions for how I might improve the beginner course?
Sure. So yeah, answer to question one. Yeah, very, very amenable to an advanced course, whatever that looks like. Um, in terms of feedback for the course, I I can't. I've been pondering that question, and I ponder it from the start, because I'm mindful that it was a first event and that there was opportunity to fine tune it. And I can't think of something that I would ask or suggest that you did that was any different to
Okay.
what you did. I just it worked very well for me,
Yeah,
and for
awesome.
those reasons that I said before, about the different threads and there was the theoretical component and there was the experiential component, both in terms of Gateway and also the Thursday night group. So I think there was just a neat mix of theoretical and experiential um, um, components, and then there was that opportunity to try and just test them out with the group and see what the others were doing. And there was the chat. The chat was very good too. There was some really good stuff that came up
Yeah.
in the chat, and I think the chat also just helped people stay on the go a little bit. Like if someone had posted they'd finished this, or maybe that helped someone else go, oh shit, I better finish this, or whatever. And the reminders were good, about we're on in an hour or we're on in whatever. I think those, and they seem simple, but I think they all add to the value of the whole experience, and it
Awesome.
was important. We had all five people there. It was important, and
Mm.
it was really good. The diversity was another good thing. You picked I don't think you could have picked a more diverse
I agree. That was
people, because I'm
incredible
looking around the room
circumstance. Yeah.
going, oh my God,
Yeah.
this is, and that was good. It was good for me to meet people that I would never meet in my life. Like I would never come across those people in my life. So for me, that was just personally a great opportunity to connect with people who I would never do normally. So yeah, there was a lot of other benefits apart from just the really immediate focus for me anyway.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that positive feedback, and I'm really glad that there's interest in the advanced
Yeah,
course
definitely.
because
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how much people would respond to this, but I ended up having to reject a couple people to
Oh,
join the
righto.
group.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
just were not going to be the right fit, and so that's why we
yeah,
ended up with a good fit crew.
yeah.
But there was clearly interest,
Oh, that's good.
and the general feedback, like some people did struggle a little bit with the depth of information. So the document, which I completely expected that there would be, because I wanted it to be like you could go deeper if you wanted to, and in fact, hopefully the content kept you engaged enough that you wanted to go deeper. But I didn't want people to go, oh yeah, I get it now. I'm bored and like not gonna ask any more questions. So it sounds like that hit the right notes, but for some
Yes.
people who did struggle with the depth of that information, they still got plenty out of it through the training and through the videos and
Yeah,
the conversations in general. So
yeah.
it seems like there was enough like diversity of content to support all different I guess ways of thinking because I
Yes,
think you have quite an analytical mind. You
yes,
want to
yeah.
know more and read and practice. Not everybody is always like that.
Mm.
They don't have the ability to go deep into the neuroscience of it, but they still want to experience. They want to know. They just don't have that orientation.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've been happy to hear that it's hit notes for all the different ways of thinking.
Other learners, I guess, or yeah, and
Yeah,
that it certainly did that. Yeah, without a
great,
doubt.
great. It was interesting because at the beginning, when I was like, "Oh, it'll be 4 to 6 weeks," everyone was like, "Oh, God, that's so short." But then I think after
Yeah,
4 or so weeks of like pretty intense training, I think people were like,
yeah,
"Okay, yeah, it is actually hard to keep up at a certain
yeah,
intensity." So I didn't want the intensity to suffer, and knowing like having it shorter and intense, I thought was better than longer, but bit disparate. And then if
yeah.
you wanted to continue training, obviously you can completely do that.
Just keep doing it. Yeah, no, I think the hour and a half was good. I initially thought that'll be quite a long time, but that wasn't the case. That time just went. It just
Yeah.
went in a heartbeat. I look up the clock and it's 9:15. I'm going, shit, where'd that
Yeah. Yeah.
where'd that go to?
And especially because, people they come late and there's
Yeah,
like
yeah, oh, yeah,
interruptions and
yeah,
things. So you can lose 10, 15 minutes
yeah,
easily. And if
sure,
you've only got 60 or 30, then
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's not going to
No,
work.
I think that time was good.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, there's nothing I'll do. And I probably, so from your point of view, whatever selection process you use for bringing people in, I think that worked,
Hmm.
because that was a good group of people.
It
That was
was, it was, yeah. I mean,
crazy.
there's a lot of good people out there, and I think the
Yeah,
cool
there are,
thing
mate. There are a lot of
these
good people. Yeah, yeah,
these kinds of consciousness related topics, I think you only get people who are really interested in
yeah,
self-development,
yeah,
improving, and yeah. Okay, so that's basically all the questions I
yeah.
had.
Okay. Yeah,
I just
right.
wanted to get a sense of how it was for you.
Yeah,
Any major breakthroughs? Like, I think that's
yep. Yeah,
important.
yeah. The funny one was, yeah, definitely. Um,
If you've got any other feedback for me or anything you just wanted to talk about in relation to
well,
the course, I'm
I
happy.
think
Keen
the
to hear it.
thing, the one thing that I was I struggled with was there was the way where you imagined either blue or purple, the
Mm.
color blue.
Color breathing techniques.
Yeah, and then you found you got that color, and then you put it somewhere. Like so, for purple, it was for healing. So you imagine purple, and then you put it somewhere in your body where you wanted healing, and you focus the color there. Because I can't see the color.
Mm.
I couldn't do that, and that was one of the things I guess I really wanted to try was the healing bit because being in training often I get hurt a lot, and
Yeah, sure.
and so I was looking for a non-chemical way well, an external chemical way of dealing with some of those injuries, you know. And I guess that was for me was a little frustrating because I couldn't
Sure.
see it. Now I've got a lady that we're kind of coaching each other, I guess. And we met during the NLP course and we catch up every fortnight. She's in England, and I was telling her about this thing, and she said, "Oh yeah, that happened to me. That was the same for me." But someone taught her to just get an item like a red apple, and put the red apple close to you and look at it,
Mm.
and then shut your eyes, and then touch it,
Mm.
touch the apple.
Mm.
And she said that in time with that technique, she now can see red and she can imagine color and all the rest of it. So it's a technique then that I've been starting. I haven't been practicing it diligently enough to have an impact yet, but it's certainly something that I want to
Well,
start
I
doing.
like that because that was along the same lines of thinking that I had
Yeah,
when
okay.
you described it to me. And in fact, looking at the background that you have, there's not a lot of color in your space. So I wonder if, what if you went out and just bought some like purple cloth or some like bright green, just things that are now colorful for your environment,
Yeah, yeah,
so that you have direct experience of these things and actually start incorporating color into your life. So
yeah.
if it is healing that you want, if you've got pains and issues from, say, training, bring in a whole bunch of purple color.
It's funny you should say that because there's an Australian designer, clothing designer, a guy called David Smith, and he had a shop in Brisbane called Ego, and he moved back to Burleigh, and his shirts are just crazy colourful, and I'm really drawn to his shirts. I think I've got 7 of them in my cupboard of these David Smith shirts, which are just they're a lot of paisleys, but they're all really really bright and really colourful, and there is a purple one in there. I've got a purple one that's largely purple. But it's funny that I'm drawn to those, you know,
Mm.
whereas I work, you know, in the office you wear the blue and the stripe and the check and whatever, you know, it's pretty mundane. But yeah, when I'm not in a corporate environment, they're my go-to clothes are those really bright clothes. So it's interesting. And the other thing that was really interesting when we talked yesterday about the study program was and the symbolism um,
Mm.
um, and painting, drawing, you
Mm.
know, getting me to draw. And I think that painting and drawing, I think, that'll be a breakthrough, I think, for me in terms of that whole color experience and that creative. Because I think that's, you know, you were mentioning yesterday that a lot of my work life has been very left brain orientated. So the right brain hasn't had much of an opportunity. Whilst I respect and love the creativity and artistic people, then I think for me that'll be a great thing too. So
Awesome.
um,
Yeah, I like that. I think a cool avenue for you would be first start to get a lot of color into your
yeah,
life
color, yeah,
and
yeah,
then do more creative things like drawing, painting,
yeah.
and just see where it takes you. It could be amazing.
Yeah,
If you
just
opened up that whole right brain way of thinking, right? Who knows what could come out of this? If you want mind
yeah.
expansion, operating from a whole different perspective could be
And
amazing.
it's transformative because I used to love making things when I was a kid. I made lots of things. Wasn't properly good at it, but I love making it. But somewhere along the track, I stopped it because maybe I didn't think I was good enough or something. So there was some fear thing came into the equation somewhere along the line, and I stopped doing stuff. But in the recent years, I've been reading stuff about, that for me, it's getting into that creative realm. It's which I've ignored because I keep saying to myself, well, I can't do it, and it's just a self-defeating mechanism. And this is part of the transformation, though, will be, getting rid of that fear of I'm not good enough to be artistic or whatever, and just fucking do it, just do it and have a crack at it. And who knows? It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be, Pulitzer Prize winning or, whatever. It just do it,
Yeah.
And I think,
Start with color. Just start.
Oh yeah, man.
Like,
Yeah,
see
I
what
love the
happens.
color thing. I
Yeah,
love
that could be
color.
cool.
I love it. I just get yeah. I get photos of those daffodil farms, tulip farms, right? And I just go, wow, that's just sensational. There's just fields and fields of shit. So
Yeah.
there is something there, Regan, for me. Definitely. And for whatever, well, I know it's a fear-based barrier. It's just now to throw that fear out and just transform. So
All right.
good.
Well, I like it. There's so much there, so many things for the future, and
Oh yeah, it's limitless, isn't it? Really, it's infinite. As a good book would tell us, it's infinite.
That's right. All right, my friend.
Right,
well, thank
great,
you so much.
Yep.
Thank you so much for sparing the time
Absolutely.
to inform me on how this training course was for you. If there's anything I could do to improve either in the future or whatever, open to feedback.
If I think of something, if something pops into my head, but yeah, like I say, right now and I've given it some thought, and I can't think of anything. But if there's something does pop up, I'll let you know.
Yeah, perfect. All right, well, I'll keep you in the
Right.
loop on future courses or whatever.
Yes, please.
Anyways,
Right,
thanks very much. I'll talk to you soon.
Pleasure.
Bye.
See you, mate. Bye-bye.